This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Andrew Frezza to learn how he scaled his gym to over $1 million in annual revenue. Now, for all of you listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview and the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. If you'd like to watch the show live, we record every Friday right here in the network on Facebook. And this is where all of our motivated gym owners meet to share their best tactics and strategies to grow their businesses. Join the network today and get in on the conversation. All right, let's get back to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I am your host, Marcus Guerzi, and this week we welcome to the show special guest Andrew Frezza, owner of CrossFit Palm Beach and founder of 7-Figure Box. It's a brand new podcast and program that's designed to help gym owners dial in some of the most important aspects of their business so that you can scale and still be profitable. Andrew, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marcus. Pleasure to be here.
Right on, man. You and I have been working together for quite some time. I've had the opportunity to watch firsthand your journey in taking your business from what was much like most of the decently running CrossFit gyms out there in the marketplace to something pretty extraordinary. And now you've even put together a podcast sharing your story and tips and things that you're doing that helped you scale. And even put together a program, which I've actually had the privilege of checking out firsthand, and it is incredibly well done. So I'm excited to have you on, excited to share with our audience some things that can help them grow. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a second to thank you, Marcus, because we met at the Barbell Mastermind about 2 years ago, and
that's right.
Our gym hasn't been the same since, so I want to thank you first.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to get to work with people who are motivated and willing to do the right things to build something that's meaningful. And I think you're a perfect representation of someone who's willing to roll their sleeves up and do the important work. So congratulations on all your success too.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we dig into some of the actual tactics and things that you can share with our gym owners to help them grow their business, tell us a little bit about your backstory, man.
Yeah, I think give you a little understanding of where I'm coming from. I grew up as a baseball player and played baseball my whole life, played in college, played 1 year minor leagues with the Boston Red Sox. When I got done with baseball, I went into sales and was sitting at a desk making 150 calls per day for Norwegian Cruise Line. And
gotta love it.
Actually was really good at it. I like talking about cruises. I think anybody who owns a gym, it's definitely helpful to have a sales background.
And to go on cruises.
I just found that after a couple years, that was not where my passion was. I missed really the physical side, the fitness side of baseball and just being around sports my whole life.
Sure.
And, I need to kind of get a change of pace. And I also realized that I don't really like working for someone else. So I really wanted to own my own business, got that kind of entrepreneurial bug. I still hadn't started CrossFit at that point, but quickly found it. So shortly after that job, I found CrossFit in 2011, and for the first 9-10 months of it, honestly, I had no thoughts of coaching at a gym, owning a gym, and that was kind of weird for me. It may have been kind of the gym that I started at. There was nothing wrong with the gym I started at. It just wasn't the culture that I wanted to create for my future gym. And then a little bit later down the road, I got exposed to some of those gyms that I think were a little bit more of a fit for me, where coaching became a really big part of it. Teaching became a really big part of it. And once I was shown that aspect of a CrossFit gym, I just kind of fell in love with it. So basically, about a year into being a CrossFitter myself, I decided I was going to open up a gym. And my first step was I am going to coach as many hours as I can, because I need to first understand if I can enjoy coaching and coaching a ton of hours before I take that next step. So actually applied to probably close to 100 gyms. I was in Fort Lauderdale at the time.
Really?
And I got, I think the 3 gyms that were at the furthest end of this radius that I applied to all accepted me. So I was coaching part-time. The actual driving distance to hit all 3 in a day was 2.5, 3 hours worth of driving. Wow. But it showed me how a bunch of gyms could be run. I got to really see how I wanted to create my gym. And at that same time, I was on my brother, on my dad, you guys got to try this. You got to try this. And They were about an hour north in Jupiter. They finally tried it, and they said, don't open a gym down there. If we find a spot up here, my dad's got a real estate background. He said, if we find a spot up here, will you move back home? We'll open one together. So the three of us ended up opening up CrossFit Palm Beach, December of 2012. And, yeah, that's where we started.
Awesome, man. Now, when you first got this thing going, what was your plan for this? Has it changed much since from when you first opened to what you've been doing over the last, let's say, year or two?
A lot's changed and a lot stayed the same. The thing that's always rang true for us is I'm not here to create a franchise or a bunch of different affiliates. I've held true to, I want to create the single best location, single gym location in the entire world. That's been my goal since day one. And growth wise, I'd rather go into something online to kind of scale and continue to grow as a person, as a business, rather than trying to create multiple locations. So that's one thing that rang true. But we started in a 4,000 square foot building. My dad had purchased two buildings right next to each other, and we were renting from him. We started in just a 4,000 square foot building. We had no plans to use the other building that was right next to it. And fast forward about a year and a half later, we are doing really, really well in that 4,000 square foot building. My dad's having trouble renting out the larger building that was right next to it, 7,000 square feet. And we're just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's create the mecca of gyms, of CrossFit gyms, and let's just go for it. And honestly, at first, it was a mistake. We were too early to be tripling in size. And for about a year and a half, there was a lot of growing pains there. It was tough. But we hit our stride in there. Couple other gyms, I mean, this is pretty typical in any area. We've had a couple of gyms shut down alongside us, near us, and not only have we been able to absorb those members, integrate them into our communities, but those members, because they loved our gym so much more than these other gyms that they were at, they actually referred even more friends because they're like, man, I thought I loved CrossFit before. I thought I loved the classes I was going to before. This is way better. You got to come to this. So we've been able to not only like absorb a few members from these gyms, but get a lot of members plus their friends. And that's really
that's fantastic, man. Now, you're currently at over 500 members at your single location, right? And when we met, I think you were right around 350. Is that right?
So when we started with Gymwright last year, we were right at 350. When we met it a year before that, I can't tell you the number off the top of my head, but I would say it was under 3.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think you were something around like 250, 275 or something like that when we initially met. And then we started working together about maybe 10 months later, something like that, about a year later, at which point you were at 350. Now, how did you go from 350 to 500?
Oh, man, there's so many good things. I mean, if you look at the two main services that we got with Gymwright, it was the business coaching and the Infusionsoft side. And I really think that the business coaching had a bigger impact for us than the technology side. And the biggest thing that we got was a mirror shined in our face. It was Angelo, in that first call, he did a good job of listening to our goals, but he said, you guys want to be a 500 member gym, and you guys are busting at the seams in terms of processes and policies and in terms of staff and roles and systems. You guys are busting at the seams right now. Like, you're making it work at 350 members, but you couldn't handle 500 members. So basically the biggest message we got from him is like, become a 500 member gym with your processes and your systems, pretend you're already there. And then that way, once you get there, you'll be ready to handle it, but you're going to get there a lot faster because you're doing those things in advance. So for us, it was evaluating prices. We had to raise prices on some old members. We had to put in credit card fees for people that were doing credit cards, and it was becoming a huge nightmare staff-wise. We hired a front desk staff. Okay, we hired a front desk staff. Literally 2 weeks later, a Fit Body boot camp closes down the street. We're in the middle of this golden ticket promotion. It was just the perfect storm of things for us, where everyone got these golden tickets to come in and try a week with us. And again, we had 10 people show up at first. Like, we could have absorbed 10 members. They could have had a good time. Those members fell in love with it, and many of those members have contributed to the 150 members we've added over the last year. So it was one, putting those systems in place, and then two, having that staff. And I think we've also just kind of doubled down on our class experience. I mean, we'll get into the Rockstar coaching course here soon, but we just continually focus on that, on the member experience. And I think that has really helped us.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far into that quite yet. But I think what you do with your class experience and how you've been able to you've turned that into an art far beyond what I think most people expect. And you've created into something that you're actually teaching people how to do with processes in a step-by-step implementation program. I think a lot of people talk about how, the coaching and the community and the experience people have is so special, and it's what sets them apart. And that I think that may be true relative to maybe what they had before. But yeah. I think that there is so much opportunity to make that really, really sing and be something that stands out head and shoulders, even above what everyone else is doing as a CrossFit gym. And I think you've done a phenomenal job with that. So I'm really pumped to share that stuff with everybody here in a little bit. But before we get into that stuff here, I know you're a big fan of the book Traction. Can you tell us a little bit about how gym owners can implement those teachings in their businesses, and tell us a little bit about your monthly committed club?
Okay, cool. So I was first introduced to Traction from you guys at the Barbell Mastermind. That was my biggest takeaway, honestly, from the Barbell Mastermind that I went to, was you have to read Traction and you have to implement as much of it as you possibly can. And, kind of going back to the business coaching, I don't want to get too much off track. One of the biggest benefits of business coaching is telling you what to do and what not to do. And just, yes, a lot of us have probably heard Traction. I know Ben Bergeron's talked about it. I know Stu from WTF Gym Talk has talked about it. A lot of people are talking about it, but very few owners are committing to that and nothing else. They're trying to do a million other things at once. So with Traction, it's enabled us to first start with a 10-year vision. Okay, where do we want to be in 10 years? And, I want to encourage owners, don't get too caught up in this. It does not have to be perfect. For us, the biggest thing that stands out to me off the top of my head is that we want to be a single location gym, right? So that's the thing that holds really true for us that I can remember off the top of my head when it comes to 10-year goals. Mm-hmm. And the next step is core values, okay? And with core values, you're setting anywhere between 3 to 6 attributes of your gym that's going to set the stage for everything in your gym. Your culture, your hiring and firing processes, how you're going to evaluate team members. And when you're doing these core values, you want to put them down on paper, but then you want to let them marinate for a little bit. Okay, they're not going to be perfect right off the bat. I mean, we're still constantly revisiting and constantly changing ours and evolving ours, but the key points are kind of staying there. And then from there, we turn that into really actionable stuff, which is 90-day rocks, they call it. And actually, it's kind of funny because I feel like we've done such a terrible job of implementing Traction, and a lot of the other owners that I talk to are like, yeah, we love the book, but we've implemented like 30 or 40% of it. So you can get a lot of value out of the book by taking what really rings true to you and following through with it and not feeling like you have to hit everything on there. Like they talk about certain types of meeting structures. I'll be honest, we don't do that, right? But the core values, the 10-year goal, the 10-year vision, and having 3 to 6 month goals, that is super actionable. It's everything on that 3 to 6 month goal or rocks is something that you can take action on today, which is really key. Whereas when you're talking about core values or vision, doesn't always feel actionable in the present moment. So we're hiring right now and we're using those core values as we speak to evaluate incoming talent.
Yeah. Something I want to point out about that, a lot of people talk about setting goals and their vision and all that. But I think the place where most people drop the ball is in being specific enough. And a lot of people have this very nebulous idea of success and, the revenue will be somewhere around here and it'll be about so many people and everyone's going to love us. And it's just this thing out in outer space, rather than by following something with Traction, as you've learned, you don't have to follow it to the letter, but just having some structure around saying, okay, who are we? What are our values? Where do we want to end up? Right. And I think the distinction you made about we just want to be one incredible facility rather than, I don't know, we'll own maybe 20 locations before they've even really mastered the concept of one. just starting with that was already, I think, important for your journey. But, identifying where you want to end up and then being able to say, okay, based on that, what needs to happen? What are the actual steps that we need to do to get there? And boiling it down to just a couple of key things. Part of what we do in our foundations program is we also do a longer range vision. We talk about life and how your business needs to fit into that. And then we start to reverse engineer from 3 year, 1 year, and we build out actual like modeling of like what just the few key things are that we're going to focus on. We could focus on 1,000 things, but we boil it down to just 3 main things that we're going to focus on even over the course of a year, so that we can get very specific and know exactly, okay, these are the couple of key things we're going to focus on. And then we can go full speed ahead. Everything else that's happening around it, great. It'll still get some attention, but all the main heavy lifting we're doing, all of our marketing, all of our staff meetings, everything we're going to do is going to be focused around these activities. And it can make such a profound difference, even by implementing just that basic framework, let alone if you really dig into the details of this stuff and start to refine, you can get into staff meetings and all that stuff too, as you continue to implement and grow with it.
Yeah, I wanted to share one of our core values, because I think people hear core values and they think of, Enron's the great example with having core values like integrity, and then we know that story. But one that really has enabled us to make a lot of day-to-day decisions is we have a core value that is the class comes first. And for us, that was things like, as we're growing, keeping our eye on building membership numbers versus trying to do a lot of extraneous services, right? Now that we're at 500 members, we're starting to look at those extraneous services like nutrition and personal training and building that up. But because we have this core value, the class comes first, everybody's still going to be doing classes, and then those extraneous services are going to feed into the classes, right? Mm-hmm. It's how we hire. We're looking for coaches that want to take classes every single day, because that's part of our weekly meeting, is to evaluate classes and to share feedback based on the classes we've taken, right? So that is a core value that's really specific to us. And I wanted to give that example because it doesn't have to be like all these like really up in the clouds things. It can be something that's really actionable for you. And I know you just had James Fitzgerald on the podcast, and he was talking about individual design and group classes, and he obviously has a different mindset, right? So there's nothing wrong with having a different mindset, but define yourself, define where you fit in the spectrum so you can bring in more people like you. Your clients know what to expect, and you can be the best at something rather than trying to do way too much. And once you get really good at it, keep being really good at it as you try to add on these auxiliary things to it.
Yep. I find it, it's pretty telling, I think, why you were able to achieve what you did. And really, again, the course that you have obviously like really breaks this down, but that's your core value is that it's the class comes first. Everyone starts with these very, warm and fuzzy in the clouds things, I think, when they talk about their mission statement and our core values. And you could probably pull 50 small business owners, or let's even say 50 gym owners, mission and core values, and 45 of them, 46 of them, almost all of them will be almost identical. They won't really be saying anything, right? But that's very specific, right? Because at the end of the day, that is the product, right? So you're basically saying the product comes first. And it's not just these other concepts that float around it, but if the product is amazing, then we are going to get that means we're getting people results. People are excited to be there. It's going to create buzz. People are going to pull more people in, and it truly is the core of what we should be focusing on. And then you take your sales and marketing strategies and you dial them in around that, and you fill people into that program. I think that's something worth noting. Now you have something called your monthly committed club. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with that?
Yeah, like many of our ideas, it's stolen from other gyms, and we evolved it. So this was something I was introduced to from CrossFit New England. I saw they had a monthly committed club, and I think theirs is 20 visits in a month. So they just kind of recognized with a blog post which athletes hit 20 visits in a month. And our big thing is we have this motto at the gym for the members, which is just show up, right? If you can just show up consistently, then we can kind of do the rest, and we can help create results for you. But without that piece in the beginning, there's not a lot that can be done. So we just try to hammer this into our members all the time. Just show up, just show up, just show up. And it's not about coming every single day. It's about coming 3 to 4 times a week and doing that indefinitely. So no matter how busy life gets, no matter how how bad you're feeling, how far off track you get. No matter what, you're coming 3 to 4 times a week. So we wanted to reward that. We wanted to incentivize that. So we created our monthly committed club. It's only 15 visits for us. Okay. If you hit 15 visits in a month, you're in the committed club. So you get recognized on a blog post. And then we do a monthly raffle with prizes, $50 cash that they can use towards their memberships or use towards retail that 2 people get every single month. We do quarterly winners. So if you're in January, February, March, you're in for the quarter. You get another drawing. You could win a half-month membership. If you get in every month for the entire 12 months, you're in another drawing to win 2 free-month memberships. Plus, you automatically get a free t-shirt that no one else gets that's specific to that year's committed club. So
very cool.
It's really cool because now people that were averaging 8, 9, 10 visits a month, or maybe one month they get 20 and the next month they get 11. Now they're holding that minimum standard to themselves, and they're really excited about it. We started about, I think it's 2 years now. This is going to be the end of the second year. Mm-hmm. And we were amazed at how many people just really grasp this concept, and it excites them because they might not be really big into PRs and milestones like that, but this is a milestone that, one, is 100% under their control, and then 2, is kind of fitting for the kind of results that they're trying to create, which is just overall fitness, energy, feeling good. So that's been awesome. We love it.
Man, I love that. And I hope everyone listening to this takes that and implements it in their gym, because if we look at the key things that really keep people, whether we're talking in their initial 3 to 6 months of membership or even long term, at the end of the day, it comes back to, are they getting results worth talking about? And the easiest way to control that is just get them to be consistent, right? It doesn't have to be this hyper technical programming or, like you said, chasing PRs and all that. It's actually not it at all. If we can just get people to show up 3-4 days a week, let alone 4 or 5 days a week for, let's just say, 6 months straight, you're already winning the game, because just taking even an okay program and having someone show up that consistently for that amount of time is going to yield some pretty remarkable results for that person. Let alone if you've got a great experience and they're having a great time, so the intensity's there and all that, you're going to get even more out of it. So, man, that's killer.
Yeah, definitely want to. I'll share the write-up since it's close to the end of the year. It's the perfect time to put it in because you can implement it January 1st for your entire 2019. So if it's possible, I'll share our blog post, which kind of covers how we introduce it to our community, the breakdown of our prizes, so people can kind of just copy it and make it their own. And then one thing I'll just note on that from an implementation standpoint is we really have to work hard with that to not celebrate the people that do 35 and 40 visits a month, right? Because people can overdo it. So we really make it about just hitting that minimum threshold. Now that we have 2 programs, CrossFit and Beach Fit, we're not trying to reward people that are doubling up and sometimes taking it to extremes, right? We're trying to really keep it on the everyday person that's trying to hit that 15 to 20 every month.
Now, when you're bringing new people in, is this the main thing that you're doing to get people to stay consistent in the first part of their journey, or are there other things that you have in place to help make sure people are showing up and staying consistent with their attendance?
That's the main thing. So we have 2 paths to get into our gym. Basically, if you want to start with CrossFit, you can do our 40-day challenge, we call it, which starts with 5 personal training sessions. And then you have that personal coach to kind of take you through your first 40 days. So for people that want to start CrossFit, they get that really good hand holding in their initial start. Mm-hmm. With Beach Fit, it's a little different. Beach Fit's our boot camp program. It's not on the beach for those that are listening and wondering. It's just in that smaller building that's next door. And people can walk right off the street and try a class. So they can try a class and then sign up for a membership that day. Our memberships are month to month, so they could sign up for a month and leave us that easily. So the Committed Club is a big one for that. We built in our email series with Gymwright to not only have Committed Club introduced, but to also have the coaches introduced and to talk about how to be successful and to talk about the concept of just showing up. And then on top of that, honestly, it goes back to class experience. It's like, and we'll get into it later, but it's like we focus not on technical coaching, but we focus on relationship building. And we have a lot of really good technical coaches, but we keep driving it into our coaches that you have to make a connection. If you can remember someone's name on the second day they come, like that is enough to earn you another 30 days most of the time.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get right into that stuff. I actually want to dig into the class experience now, and what you've built with that program, because I think there's probably more that we could talk about just in that alone. And by the way, we're going to be doing a whole second show with this just because of the sheer amount of ground we're going to cover, with what people can take and implement to improve that class experience. So let's just dive into that, man. Why do you believe that, gyms, what do you think they could be doing better in terms of, let's say, their programming and their class experience? Tell us about kind of like why this even exists and how this was born. Give us a little bit of context.
Yeah. So basically this was born out of experience and picking up things from people like you and Ben Bergeron throughout the years. And what I was realizing as we got, when I was talking about we opened that second building, that really was the struggling years for us. And we had to do some hard thinking back then. So what I started to realize is when I would go to a Ben Bergeron seminar, or when I would go to a mastermind, or when I would start to do these things to work on the business or work on personal development skills. I was going to a lot of Tony Robbins seminars. I was going to Dale Carnegie seminars and working on my communication skills and leadership skills. And when I would go to those types of events versus an Olympic lifting workshop and getting my USAW, or going to a mobility seminar, the amount of difference that I saw in my business, or just the class experience and even programming and even technical coaching, from going to the level 2 or kettlebell workshop or USAW was minimal, honestly. But when I would go to these other things, when I would work on myself and work on the business, I would see these massive changes in the business. And the big thing that stuck out to me was going through the Dale Carnegie course was focusing 100% on building relationships. So when I saw that, I'm like, this has to be taught, because naturally I'm pretty shy, I'm pretty introverted. It's been a lot of work for me to feel comfortable at the front of the class, to feel comfortable being the first one to say hi to someone when they walk in the room. So it's been a lot of work for me, but then I see coaches that are good at it that choose not to do those things. So I really felt like I needed to help other gym owners, other coaches, keep their eyes on what was the most important, which is interpersonal skills, relationship building skills, remembering names. And that's kind of the foundation of the Rockstar coaching course. We then get into how can you translate that into preparation before class, creating lesson plans, the technical side of coaching. We kind of build from there, but you can't do those things until you have that foundational piece of connecting with someone and getting them to understand that you care about them as a person.
All right. So where do we start?
So let's start with the pyramid. Okay. So we've created a pyramid that's very similar to the theoretical development of the athlete for CrossFit. So with CrossFit, we know it's nutrition at the base, metabolic conditioning. We go up to gymnastics, weightlifting and throwing, and then sport. Okay. With us, our coaching pyramid starts at the base with the cheerleader. And most people will hear the cheerleader and they'll think of it in a negative way, right? They think of that coach that has no technical knowledge. They're just, shouting random good jobs from the corner of the room, and they're just kind of hanging out, right? They might talk to you before and after class a little bit, but really they have no business on the coaching floor. For us, the cheerleader is the relationship builder, and they're the center of the community. So they're people that understand this concept of the emotional bank account, which we talk about in the course. They understand how to make someone feel cared about, right? And it's things like remembering names, asking questions. We give people a cheat sheet of just a lot of great questions that you can ask to dig into someone, like asking about their family, asking about their work, doing those little things. And the cheerleader maximizes the 10 minutes before and after class. And that's really key. If you're coming to class and you're thinking class starts at 4 o'clock for a 4 o'clock class, you're going to spend the 60 minutes playing catch up. So for us, if we spend that 10 minutes before class connecting with members, breaking the ice, figuring out where they are from a physical and mental standpoint for that day, being great at the cheerleader role enables us to do the technical things later on in class. Okay. So from there, the cheerleader at the base, we move up to the director. Okay. And the director, this is your logistics master. Okay. This is the coach you want on the floor. You got 30 people, 40 people showing up to Fight Gone Bad or Filthy 50. This is the coach that you want leading that class. They're going to have that that lesson plan dialed in minute by minute. They're going to know, they're going to stage that gym beforehand, so everything's going to organize and flow. They're going to be that presence at the front of the group where they can get the class to kind of shut up and listen, but do it in a respectful way where people are wanting to listen. They want to listen to that person and follow what they have to say. So that director is that person that runs the trains. They keep everything on time. They might use music or the clock to kind of manage that class experience, but they make it look effortless. Okay. From there, we go up to the technician. And this is where most people think about the foundational part of a CrossFit coach. But as we've said earlier, people don't care how much you know about the technical side until they know how much you care about them. So we have to do those first two things in order to be able to do the technician side. And that's why it's this third tier up. Think back to that pyramid, right? We all know we should be doing more with our nutrition and our metabolic conditioning. We all know really strong people that can't do anything with that in a Metcon because they have no engine, right? So metabolic conditioning enables us to do the weightlifting side better. Same thing is true with the technical side. So this is what most people are familiar with what's taught at the level 1, the level 2, the level 3. And honestly, this is not the focus of the course, but we do talk about some things different from the level 1 and level 2 that can kind of expand on that technician side. From there, the fourth rung of the pyramid is the programmer, okay? And the programmer does not have to be the one doing the programming. They just have to understand the why behind why we're doing certain things. They need to be able to translate that to the group. So they need to be able to do it at the whiteboard in a group setting and make people feel like they're talking to me, even though there's 30 people around, right? If I'm a competitor, if I'm a soccer mom, if I'm 60 years old, if I'm a teenager, everyone feels like they said something in there that enabled me to make a better choice about getting the stimulus for the day. And then on top of that, whether it's before class or during class, they're able to individually get people the appropriate stimulus for the day, scale them appropriately, and do those things. And then that final piece at the top is the coach. That's the role that we aspire to be, is that coach at the top of the pyramid. And they can do a couple things. One is that in any given class, they can dynamically take on and master those 4 other roles, right? Because there's times where it's going to call for a great technician. There's times where it calls for a great director. There's times where it calls for a great cheerleader. You have to be able to master and take on any of those roles. And then the coach is also going to be able to go a lot deeper. They need to be able to know about nutrition. They need to be able to know about kind of like mindset and psychology, right? They need to be able to go deeper with those things. And generally the good sign of a coach is they're creating results that extend far beyond the walls of the gym. It's not just fitness related.
Awesome, man. Yeah, the way that you organize that, I think, sheds so much light on just the priority gap that I see with a lot of coaches. A lot of people start. I mean, I think back even in my journey and the coaches that we had working for us over the years, and you know that so many people kind of, it's like they skip over those first couple of steps, right? They skip over the connection piece. They skip over the logistical aspect and actually being able to control and direct a group. All the effort starts a technician, and that's where they just double down, triple down the effort. Yeah. And I've just got to learn more, I've got to learn more cues and, progressions, but they just go ham, and then they wonder why the classes, people aren't sticking around, or they're like, but I'm so good. I've done all these certifications. I'm so qualified. It's like, look, people aren't here for the qualifications. People are here for an experience. And if the main priority is not first and foremost making them feel seen, making them feel like someone cares and that this is something engaging, I'm excited to be a part of, and that once we get through that step, it's okay, everything seems to make sense. There seems to be order to it. So there's not these unnecessary stress points of, a poorly managed class or things being off schedule and everyone kind of scrambling about and things being messy and all that. All that is unnecessary and just distracts from your ability to even talk about the technical stuff, right? So if you can get those fundamental pieces working well first, then you have the opportunity to even get into that other stuff. Otherwise, no one's even going to care. You said it earlier. No one cares about the technical stuff until they think that you care about them. Yeah.
And the one thing that I wanted to point out is I think with CrossFit, we've allowed ourselves to believe that community, or for us, family, being a family business, means it's makeshift or it's unprofessional. And I think we're really trying to draw the line there that, like, in the 10 minutes before class, like, we are so much your friend in that sense of talking to you, bouncing back ideas. We're obviously trying to find out stuff that's going to help us coach you better during the class. But like, when that class starts, like, we're going to make sure that every detail is thought of and that there's a really professional side to it. Same thing when someone walks through the door the first time, right? We don't want to mistake a family business or a tight-knit community for unprofessional. And we really work hard to kind of separate those two.
That's an important distinction. I hear that excuse all the time. You know, it's supposed to be, you know, grassroots and feel like a family and be loose. And it absolutely can be when we're not in delivering product mode, right? The bookends, just before and just after, is exactly what that is about. That's where you check in with everyone. Hey man, how you doing? Oh, check out your new kicks. And you're connecting, you're being authentic with people and really growing those friendships, right? And building those relationships. And that again enables now a better connection when it comes time to get to work. And without that, like you said, playing catch up, well said. You know, we had coaches that would come in and say, 4 o'clock class, they roll in the door at 3:59, keys go into the back room, 4 o'clock ticks over, they go up to the front. All right, guys, let's get started. And they would wonder why they wouldn't be as successful with their classes, or they wouldn't get the same kind of feedback and engagement as the rest of us, where we actually would require people, after we got a couple of years in, we required our coaches to be there. That was part of the job. Do you require people your coaches to actually be there early, and are you compensating them for that time? Or are you just compensating them for the hour that they're there and letting them know, hey, it'd be great if you showed up before and stayed after?
So we don't have any type of formal check-in process where they're like clocking in, but we talk about it all the time that you have to be on the floor 10 minutes before. We pay really well for our classes, so it's sort of factored in, even though we're not
just part of the job
necessarily paying for an hour and 20 minutes. One place that we do pay for extra time is for like an opening and a closing coach. Our opening coach,
excuse me,
bless you, always creates a lesson plan each day. Our closing coach always stages for the next day. So that's a place that we do pay them extra. And we really try across the board, like whether it be meetings or little things that they're going to contribute to, like Sugar WOD, we pay a little extra to kind of understand that our coaches have time restraints and that they're going to be putting time into those things. So we try to really just be fair in that way.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got our hierarchy, we've got our pyramid down. What's next?
So basically from there, it's a lot of exercises. So if in terms of the course, every week we break down one of the roles, and every week has videos, has PDFs, and then every week has an assignment at the end of it. Okay, so we dedicate a week to each of the roles. We dedicate 2 weeks to the cheerleader role specifically because we feel it's that important. And a couple big things that come out of this. One is that if you're not already doing weekly meetings, you have to start doing weekly meetings. You can maybe get away with every other week, and just in terms of the course, you can kind of just spread it out 2 weeks at a time instead of 1 week at a time. But you have to be doing regular meetings with your team. And for us, when we're hiring or we're possibly firing a coach, we tell them the meeting has to come first. So we'd rather have a coach give up their hours, their coaching hours, get those covered, but still make the weekly meeting, because that's the one time in our week that we get the entire team together. So there's a huge team building aspect to this because you're doing all the assignments together. And there's a lot of the assignments relate to working with your other coaches, whether that be teaching them and correcting them in class, giving them feedback. And that's one of the big things you'll learn from this course is how to give feedback and get comfortable taking feedback, because you're going to be doing it every single week from either your head coach or from your other fellow coaches.
Okay, so just to clarify, because I feel like we kind of like danced our way into like the program itself. This is a program designed to teach, really how to optimize the class experience, and not just like here's how to make the class experience better, but you're actually teaching the gym owner how to get their staff on board. You're giving them an entire like a staff meeting like process and template to follow to actually roll this stuff out. So not only like, hey guys, this is what we're going to be doing, but you provide materials and a course to actually help roll all this out with all of your coaches, right? So, because it's not just about the owner learning, hey, here's some cool tricks to make my class better. The key is the implementation amongst all of your coaches, right?
100%. So that, going back to my motivation for starting this course, I did Ben Bergeron's affiliate excellence seminar. I think it was called the Bot Seminar back in, I think it was 2013. It was about a year into being in business. I feel like I've spent the last 5 years trying to get that information to trickle down to my coaches. So I wanted to create a course that we could do that as fast as possible, take the best of every meeting we've run over the last 6 years and cram it into 8 weeks. And then anytime you have a new coach, anytime we have a new coach, they go through this program. And I can see a lot of gyms doing this every year, every 2 years, because you evolve as people, and the assignments are really based on where your current abilities are as a team. So yeah, that's definitely rings true with me.
Yeah, the meeting piece, I think, is probably one of the less, I guess, sexy bullet points of what kind of comes with it. However, one of the most important, because so many gym owners, I mean, people that we talk to, I mean, so many of the issues that they deal with stem from this lack of unification amongst the team and everyone rowing in the same direction, inconsistency with class experience, staff that doesn't want to follow along or doesn't buy into you trying to implement changes and grow and evolve. I mean, there's so much in there. It's not just about, the Facebook advertisement or, whatever promo you're doing. Like those are all part of the bigger picture. But what it really boils down to is your team on board with the standards and the quality and what we're doing with our people in every single class time, every single interaction. And so I want to underscore that, because that was one of the main things that stood out for me. And we even had a conversation about like how valuable that is in itself, just the meeting structure that you're providing people, let alone like, here's how you do the class and here's all those materials and tools and helping people understand where they rank on the in the pyramid and how to progress forward and all that. So I want to point that out because I don't think most people will look at that and think, oh, well, that's really important. But most gyms that I talk to, this is completely missing. It doesn't it's not even there at all. They're like, oh yeah, we do them every now and again. I try to get them in when I can. And it's like, what? These should be required as a staff. Like minimum, we start our when we teach, just generally, we're not talking about the class experience in our program. We're talking about just overall. I provide a framework where I say at least there should be one required staff meeting every single month. And once you can get that, then you can say, okay, now we're going to keep going further and further to where you get to a point to where you've got required weekly staff meetings like you have. I mean, incredibly powerful.
I see the course as kind of a litmus test for that, for your coaches. And a lot of owners are going to say, well, yeah, my coaches can't meet every week. Well, my argument would be like, those probably shouldn't be coaches on your team. Like you should get new coaches that can do it, because if you can't get a coach to commit an hour a week, and I'm sure, because I talked to a lot of owners about this, they're being flexible. They're not being, hey, this is the only time you can make it. They're being flexible with their teams. They're trying to make it work, and it's still not working. Right. To me, that says that person doesn't need to be on your team, because this is a very obvious thing to show that a lot of other things are sliding, things that when you're not there, things about the class experience that are not being taken care of. And this is just that first litmus test to see, can your coaches follow through on what's being asked?
Yeah, good point, man. If your coaches can't even make, let's say, that one required monthly staff meeting, you've got a pretty big problem. That's not someone, for me personally, that I would keep on my team. I mean, we've literally fired people over not making the monthly staff meeting more than once, right? We say you get one pass and you better have a really good excuse, and I better know ahead of time. But a no call, no show to a monthly staff meeting saying, oh, I had a hair appointment, or you know what, I couldn't move I had to go shopping and I was busy. You're fired. Find a new place to work. This isn't going to be for you, because if you can't even show up when you need to show up, we've got bigger issues. So making sure you can even have a staff that can be on board with that is key.
Definitely.
All right. So beyond that piece, so what can someone expect going into this? Like what are going to be the outputs for them after going through this program?
100% your retention is going to improve. Like that's first and foremost, because you're putting first things first, which is you're putting the relationship first, and you're giving your coaches not only the mindset switches they need to do it, but also the tools to need it. And that's first and foremost. Second thing is hopefully you'll be able to confidently delegate a lot more classes, because now you have that's the thing we never had for a while is I'd run really good meetings and then we'd hire a new coach and they'd miss all that old content. So this is a chance to have every coach on the same page. It kind of gives you your own vocabulary too, which is really nice, which allows you to then do ongoing coach development. Once the 8 weeks ends, you guys can continue to grow and evolve as a team without the course, right? Because now you have this vocabulary, you have some drills that are in your toolbox that you can use regularly in meetings. And then hopefully, honestly, I want a lot of gym owners to have a happier place that they work at. I want them to have a better relationship with their team. I want them and their employees to feel like they're a part of the team, right? For me, from my baseball days, one of the things I was missing, one of the reasons I retired after 1 year of professional baseball was there was no team in professional baseball. It was all individual development. And I missed that. I missed that when I was doing sales. And that's what I'm trying to create here. That's one of our core values is team over individual. And I want to create a really strong team. I think a lot of owners out there, they want to be in this for several decades. And why not surround yourself with people that see things the way you do, that are on the same page and that have communication skills to convey that to you and the other members.
Love it, man. Now, do you have any tips for helping gyms stand out just overall?
More from like a marketing perspective on the outside or from an inside?
You tell me where you think it's more impactful.
So I'd be lying if I felt like I could really do it from a marketing perspective. I mean, one thing we've done is we've really committed to having designated social media people that tell our story and tell it in a trying to tell it from the point of view of always the newer members rather than always coming from the veteran members' perspective. Mm-hmm. So I think that's key if you're a prospect looking in. But for us, it's really just having a great first impression. So when someone comes through the doors, they're greeted by a front desk person, someone saying hi to them. They've been introduced to either a couple members or a couple coaches. It's a clean facility. It's organized. You can look like if they come in during a workout, they could have never seen CrossFit or Beach Fit before, but they can kind of tell what's going on because it's not like one person's bars turn one way and another one's doing another way and everyone's like dragged a box in a certain area of the room and people are doing pull-ups and there's a kettlebell under them. Like we almost always stage our gym to flow as if there's going to be 40 people in class because some of our classes may get that high. So that first impression of being able to walk in and see that it's professional, it's organized, but then super welcoming and friendly, I think it's been the difference for us. And then the class experience just kind of builds on that and it becomes a no-brainer. I mean, our primary way to grow our gym has been referrals. So, I think that's something that we do really well versus like the marketing side.
Now we touched on this a little bit in the top of the show, but I think we can expand on this a little bit more. What do you believe that gyms could be doing better in terms of their programming?
Yeah, this is a good one. So the biggest thing for me in terms of programming, I think just way too many gym owners or the head coach, the head programmer, we're too focused on creating fitness results, getting people fitter, and specifically in the short term. We're trying to get people PRs. We're trying to get them ready for a local competition. We're trying to get them ready for the Open. And I mean, we'll use things like the Open to evolve our programming throughout the year so it doesn't look like the exact same, constantly very template 12 months of the year. There's like little focuses throughout the year. But for the most part, people are putting fitness experience over class experience. And for us, when it comes to programming, we're always trying to put class experience first. So we might write a workout and then rearrange the order, rearrange the rep scheme so it flows better across the room, right? We might cut down a volume because we're like looking at our week, we're like, man, this might get someone hurt. Like we want to back off the week because we don't want to injure anybody. And like one of the best ways to retain more members is just to not get people hurt. Like it's that simple. If you can dial back your programming or just be smart enough about your programming, you're going to retain a lot more members. Like 2 members a month at this point for us, 6 years down the road, is a lot of members. So if 2 people are getting hurt and not coming back, that's a big deal. Another one is trying to either do too much or too little, right? So some gyms are just programming Fran, and there's nothing wrong with just having Fran as your programmed workout of the day. But if you're the programmer and you're giving your coaches Fran, and then they're kind of left to fend for themselves, you've given them 8 to 10 minutes of their 60-minute block, and then you've essentially said, create the other 50 to 52 minutes on your own, right? And if you don't have really good coaches, or you haven't given them direction about how you want them to fill those other 50 to 52 minutes, you're either going to get a poor experience or you're going to get a very inconsistent class experience across the board. Other gyms are trying to fit in a 20-minute strength piece plus a 15-minute Metcon, and they're trying to pack in too much. So I think there's this nice sweet spot in there. I would say we're a little bit more strength and skill biased than, let's say, CrossFit.com or CrossFit New England, who I follow a lot. But for the most part, we're trying to sit at about 15 to 28 minutes of true programming, okay, whether that be a strength and skill work, core workout after, plus the workout of the day. And then that leaves like the right amount of time to create a really well-rounded class experience, one that is feeling filled but not rushed. And it gives you a chance to create relationships, develop relationships, but to still get that good hard effort that you want to get out of that day, where, you know, people always want to feel that when they walk out that they've done something tough.
Sure. Can you give us some specifics around what you're doing to really connect with people and enhance that experience? Like, what are some quick tips you can pass along to people that they can implement to improve their class experience?
Class experience wise, it would be create a lesson plan every day. That's got to be my number one, because I think a lot of what enables you to kind of be creative and do things on the fly, whether it be just tell a joke or to like do a warm up, like we do game warm ups and stuff like that, is having a very set structure to it, right? The discipline gives you more freedom. So having each minute of your class planned out allows you to have more freedom within that class. We also try to create a lot of variety. So we're always kind of throwing new things at people, not in terms of complexity, but just in terms of different and variety. So it might be a game in a warm-up, it might be a different type of interval format in the warm-up. It might be a partner thing. We do a lot of partner stuff where people are teaming up, they're learning that person's name. And I think one thing I see at a lot of other gyms is like question of the day. And actually I'm not really a huge fan of like question of the day, because to me, I think in some cases, many cases, if you have bigger classes, it can feel like you're violating people's respect of their time. And if you drag 7-8 minutes out talking about question of the day of a 60-minute class, like to me, that's like a false sense of community. So if you're doing something, if you're doing a PVC warm-up and you're going around and shooting questions and you're kind of integrating community with fitness and with the warm-up, to me, that stuff is great. And I think just really for us, like having coaches that are all taking classes consistently, they're all get a chance to plan their own lesson plan once a week. They're all thinking about these things, and then they're giving those ideas to other people. We all spend a lot of time on Instagram and Facebook looking at like what NC Fit's posting and all these other places. So we're just trying to constantly integrate new ideas into warm-ups and workouts and cool downs that are going to kind of keep people on their toes and keep a veteran member engaged for years.
Now, you said the lesson plan piece, they're actually getting to design their own lesson plan every week. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that?
Yeah, so our programming, our process is pretty detailed. So even though I don't want to say bash programming, but I make it seem like I don't care a lot about programming, we spend a lot of time on it because we're creating it for the class experience. So every week I still do the programming. I create an outline. Me and one of my other coaches meet every Wednesday to break that down, finalize it, make sure it's a really cohesive week, make sure we have our scaling options in there. And then from there, we build out notes for that day. So we actually build in athlete notes that are on our website. So if someone wants to see this, they can go to our website, look at the workout of the day blog, and they'll see the workout of the day plus the notes. So we're trying to create smarter athletes through these notes. We don't care if people cherry pick. Like, we'll educate them on why they shouldn't, but we're not trying to prevent it by not showing them what it is. We're trying to get them more information, educate them more so they're smarter athletes and they're taking ownership of their fitness. So we have workout notes for the athletes on the website that also go to the coaches. And then we have separate notes that we break down staging, we break down scaling options, we break down how this workout should be explained, like what you want to emphasize in your explanation. We break down any type of movement clarifications that are in there if we're kind of doing a new movement in that. So we have that broken down for the coaches to see separately. They get that every week, send it out every Friday, sent it out this morning for next week. They have the whole week ready with notes. And then from there, whoever's opening that day will take that workout, take the notes, and they'll create a minute by minute lesson plan. And the reason I say that all coaches are doing it every week is the sense that we have different coaches opening each day. Okay, so we don't have a coach that's like set 5 a.m. every single day. They might open 2 or 3 times in a week, but they're not doing it every week. So between Beach Fit and CrossFit, almost all of our coaches are getting the chance to do the lesson plan. They do it the night before. They post it to Slack, which is our online communication. So then it's there for the entire day for every coach to see and follow. And then usually it gets evolved throughout the day. Little tweaks get made. So either we'll communicate with each other or we'll post to Slack with what changes have been made to that lesson plan.
Fantastic. All right. We're coming up on the hour here. And I don't want to get too far into all the, we're going to have a whole nother show we're going to get into with you on this, where we're going to dive even deeper into all this stuff. A couple quick questions here before, and then we'll wrap it up. How do you create career opportunities for your coaches?
So this is something that we've really put a lot of work into over the last year or two. And for us, it's a 3-pronged approach. Okay. So it's CrossFit classes or just group classes in general. Mm-hmm. It's a, role outside the gym of some sort. Okay. So it could be social media, could be sales, it could be front desk, it could be cleaning and maintenance, it could be programming. We try to give each of our coaches one role that's going to be kind of an office hours type of role that would coincide with that. And then the third tier of that would be personal training. So we're looking at these 3 tiers and saying, okay, how can we create a substantial career for our coaches by offering these 3 things? And for us, we found that for the quality of product we're trying to put on the floor, plus the kind of bandwidth that these coaches have and the ability to make more money through things like personal training and nutrition coaching, that 15 to 20 coaching hours, class hours a week is the sweet spot for us. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's just going to depend on the person. But like we call a coach full time at 15 class hours a week, right? As long as they have a role with that and they're able to take on personal training. And then personal training is kind of the wild card in this because a lot of coaches are super motivated or they're really good at sales. So they get a good personal training book of business. For others, they're not as motivated and they can kind of take that tier down and just focus on CrossFit coaching or class coaching and their role. So just having that structure has helped us out a lot. And then, a couple other things is just paying for any other extraneous activities. I mean, there's a few times where like this Saturday we'll be setting up for a holiday party and we're not going to pay people for that necessarily, but meetings, we pay our coaches to comment and like and fist bump on SugarWOD because we require them to do 100 fist bumps every month, 65 comments every month. So we pay them for that time because that ends up being about 2 to 3 hours a month of time. So we try to just value all these places where they're putting in time. That's mm-hmm. built in as a salary. So the way we structure their classes is, let's say someone starts at $25 an hour for coaching classes. They can move up via experience and CrossFit levels. All right. We want just a really clear way to do it. Is it perfect? No. But if someone has like 12 months experience plus a level 2, they'll go up to $28 an hour. They have 18 months experience plus a level 3, there's $30 an hour. Then it can go as high as actually $38 per class. They kind of max out that structure. So having that's really good because they can see that path for growth. Okay. And then on top of that, based on the hours that we're requiring of them every week, let's say it's 20, that 20 will get multiplied by their coaching hours and that becomes their salary. In addition to their meetings, because that's recurring every single week. In addition to the SugarWOD stuff, that becomes a salary. And now if that person goes on vacation, they get paid that regardless. So being able to work that into vacation days and sick days makes a big deal. I mean, it sounds small on paper because it's only, 10 to 14 days a year. But just being able to know, like when I go away, I'm going to get a similar paycheck is huge. Mm-hmm. And continuing education is part of it. Retail, we give them deals on that kind of thing. But the 3 prongs is really the focus of that.
Awesome, man. All right, well, let's wrap up for today. Where can people find more about the course so they can check it out and learn more about it?
So yes, they can go to sevenfigurebox.com. There's a tab at the top, Rockstar Coaching Course, and then you guys can see a lot of it on the sales page. There's a couple sample videos on there if you want to kind of see the course. There's also the full table of contents or outline of the entire course with the videos, so you can kind of get an idea of what things are going to be covered, if it's going to be valuable or not for you. And then the Seven Figure Box podcast as well. People can check that out, and that's on that website, and then also on iTunes or wherever podcasts are played.
And you guys already have like 20 plus episodes up, right?
I think it's 25. Yeah, I'm going for one a week. I've been able to hold consistent to that. So one a week is the goal. And I try to really show you guys a window into my thinking process behind these things. Some of the more tactical side, I think there's a lot of really good podcasts that are talking about things from more of a higher level. And I really tried to, as much as possible, be transparent and talk about things from a place of experience. And like, I just recorded a podcast yesterday that I released this morning about hiring, and it's 6 questions that I'm literally currently asking myself today as I'm evaluating candidates to figure out who I want to hire and who not to hire. So you guys can really get in real time a window into my thinking as a fellow gym owner. And I hope that is a helpful resource for a lot of people out there.
Well, I think you've done a wonderful job in that you are, I mean, it is literally down to the detail tactics, day-to-day stuff, where you're right. A lot of the podcasts, we tend to focus on the bigger picture things, but this is, I mean, super detailed, exactly what you're doing, what's happening in your process and all that. So for those of you listening to this, make sure you guys go check it out, because it's a pretty different approach from what I think most of us are used to in this space. And there is a ton of gold in these episodes. Really well done. Now, Andrew, you even put together a special discount for people watching and listening to the show here today to check out your program, right?
Yeah, so anybody listening to this podcast or finds it in the Gymwright group, they can get in for $100 off with the code Gymwright, and just put that in on the sales page. You'll get right in. Another thing that's included in there, which is kind of something we haven't really sold much, is you get 2 coaching calls in there. You get 2 45-minute coaching calls with me, and we're going to really break down where your team's at. We might, if you want to enter in any other business questions, I'm happy to answer it, but I'd like to keep it more coaches development related. But that, again, the experience I've had with a business coach, I'd like to give that same experience to a lot of people from the coaches development side, and just being able to bounce ideas off someone is huge. So, looking forward to getting on a call with a lot of gym owners out there, as soon as they sign up for the course.
Yeah, guys, check it out. Visit sevenfigurebox.com. Reach out to Andrew, learn about the program, chat with Andrew if you need to. I think this is something that every gym owner should be checking out, simply because of how important the product itself is in your overall success. And it's overall, I think, actually a nominal investment relative to how much time and effort and value you've put into this thing. So guys, go check that out. Andrew, one question I like to ask everyone who visits the show here, in one sentence, if you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would it be?
So I wanted to steal Nathan's from a couple episodes ago, which was, I think, focus on client experience. Mm-hmm. But my one sentence is get outside your 4 walls. And basically what that means to me is, I mentioned it with some of the business seminars that I've been to, but I think a lot of us are quick to go to local competitions, maybe consider going to the CrossFit Games. But for me, again, the greatest impact has been, one, going to these other seminars, the masterminds, but talking to other gym owners. Find the best gym owner within 50 miles of you and go have lunch with him once or twice a month, right? I just did a recent vacation with my family to North Carolina, and I made sure that I went and visited 4 gyms that, in a span of about an hour that I really wanted to see. I wanted to see their day-to-day operations, and I got to meet with 2 of the gym owners. One was Sue from WTF Gym Talk. It was an awesome experience for me. So get outside your 4 walls, experience other gyms, Orange Theory, yoga, whatever it might be, and talk to other gym owners and go to these other business events that are out there.
Awesome, man. Great advice. Where can people find more about you?
So I'm on Instagram, Andrew Frezza, and Facebook, although you're probably just going to see me posting pictures of my 2-year-old son. So I don't know how interesting that's going to be. But if you guys want to check out the gym and kind of follow CrossFit Palm Beach, we have an Instagram and a Facebook, and then the website's crossfitpalmbeach.com. And then the 7-Figure Box has an Instagram and a podcast as well.
Awesome. Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show today. Looking forward to having you on again very soon. And I think that's about it, right?
That's about it. Thanks for having me, Marcus.
My pleasure, man. All right. I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners out there for joining us today. Again, if you're listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the show notes and at gymwright.com. If you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review on iTunes or on Facebook. Your support means the world to us. And also, if you'd like to watch the show live, you can join the conversation every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here in the network. Thanks again for your support, and get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.